Here I am. And Ravindra Krishna Prabhu and Shyama Vallabhadiri, Dandavat to you both. So near and yet so far. So living just very close to us here. Dandavat. And Ajay Krishna Prabhu and Ratnavali Devi Dasi, Ratnavali. Dandavat, Dandavat. Ajay Krishna Prabhu with his professional camera, professional everything there. But we can't hear you because your professional microphone is turned off.
I'm so professional that I forgot to unmute my mic. So I'm at work right now, but I'll be listening in the background.
All right. So remember Mahaprabhu, because even the most difficult things have become easy if you remember Mahaprabhu. Krishna, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj tells in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the most easy things become difficult when we forget Mahaprabhu. Ravindra Krishna, we can see you. Dandavat, Shyama Vallabhadiri, Dandavat. Oh, we can maybe just see a photograph unless you're sitting very still. Dandavat. Dandavat. And Ratnavali is cooking something. 12 o'clock, 5 past 12.
Cooking mum's lunch.
Cooking mum's lunch, okay. And how's mum doing?
She's okay, Maharaj. She's okay. Stable.
Okay, well, that's something. Hare Krishna. I've been reading because I was asked to speak something about Bhaktivinoda Thakur here in Italy this last week. And so I started doing a little research, obviously, just to read something for that. And now I can't put down the book, the Seventh Goswami, which is about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And one thing that struck me, I mean, many things strike us maybe, but one thing is how much illness there was around. Everybody's getting ill, and how Ulla, where his family was staying, the whole village of Ulla was devastated by a fever, like a virus. And he went back to his village, and he didn't have any news. It wasn't the internet age and everything. But he went back to his village to see the family because he heard that one of his relatives was sick. So he came back to see that relative, not knowing that the whole village was basically consumed by this virus. And when he went there, then he met up with one of his old friends who said, oh, stay the night and then we'll go tomorrow and see your relatives. And when he went, then he said there were dead, when he went there, in the houses, there were dead bodies. Some houses were completely vacant. And from other houses could hear the wailing of people suffering. And so it was really quite a sight. And then he got his relatives out from there. But then repeatedly, one incident after another, so many sicknesses came to the family. The various relatives on the mother's side, relatives on the father's side. And the cures were quite different than today. Today, very scientific cures. But there were cures, and he mentioned some of these, which included ground conch shell and various, you could say traditional recipes. But they had faith in those physicians, and also he's saying that when they got all the ingredients for one remedy, then when they secured the final ingredient and put it all together, then quickly got better, and things like this. So there was some other science of medicine.
Interesting.
Anyway, yeah, we think that in the past everything was very easy, But even to get to Ula and to get to the places he was traveling, they would go by boat up the Ganges, and not just like for a half an hour boat ride or something. They would, by the sounds of it, would spend a day and a half or something on the boat overnight. And then finally they arrived, etc. So lots of difficulties to travel at that time, and such things as we're seeing today taking place at that time. And this is 200, well, almost 200 years ago, isn't it? He was born in 1838, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And then this was 20 years later, so 1858. And then that period, and when he was already a young man, 20 years old, many difficulties. Subhasini Devi joined us from Ireland. Dandavat.
Maharaj, Dandavat. Yeah.
And Praneshwari Devi Dasi. Dandavat Subhasini. From her new house. From her new home.
Yes.
New place of bhajan, new place of seva. And Praneshwari Devi with a green screen behind her. Following your example of trying to have a good background or a neutral background, a couple of times I did with a this blue here, that blue thing behind me, I put it up, but I look just too formal or something. I thought that doesn't look like me. In fact, I'd rather not have my picture there at all. But anyway, Praneshwari, she's a lady. She can pull it off. I mean, a lady, a gentleman lady, a gentle lady. She can pull it off, but not me. And another thing in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, seeing as I've been reading that, he was saying about the marriage, and there's one marriage when he's very young taking place. And he said he likened it to the marriage of dolls, that everybody, like the poor people, were all dressed up in nice outfits. And he said, I learned from this that the nice dress, the nice clothing is meant for that section of society, not meant for the poor people. And he had some comments about that, some of his early remembrance. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yes.
He wrote a book actually called Marriage Systems of Bengal as Kedarnath Datta. I found it in the British Museum Library.
Acha.
And interestingly, there he says, polygamy is the bane of Indian society, and we compare it to the slavery of the Negroes in America.
My goodness.
So very strong opinion he had about that.
Yeah, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very moral from his childhood to do the right thing. And when he was coaxed to do the wrong thing by his brothers and friends, he got caught immediately, which tends to happen to people who are good. And the bad boys don't get caught. That doesn't mean we should aspire to be the bad boys. It does mean something else. Govinda, Govinda. All right. So we're coming together, and we've come together in West London, but from West London, we've also come together from around and about. And Vijay Krishnabhu is with us. Maybe his grandfather told him some Bengali stories. That is possible. And Leela Mai Devi Dasi with us. She's now, how old? 2 weeks old, maybe. She's very young in devotional life. And then we have our kitchen crew in the West London temple. We've all been invited to West London. So now we've got to find a corner in the kitchen to sit down and chat to those who are doing the busy seva there. Govinda, 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 Dandavat, Dandavat. How many devotees are in the temple today? Click.
Sorry, Maharaj. We have a full house. We have lots of. It's really sweet. We have a new family, Bengali family. They've been coming every day and joining into the program and helping out with the food prasadam distribution. And then there's another family and just like lots of nice influx of guests, and we have to manage it carefully and take turns so that we don't, end up breaking any rules and keep.
Okay, so it sounds very lively, and it's everyone seems to be very busy. So good.
Yes, Maharaj.
All right, so don't let us take you from your seva, but good to be able to be with you there. We'll sit in the corner in the kitchen and not get in the way.
Maharaj, we're very happy to hear you while we're working in the kitchen.
Well, I'm your guest, I believe.
Now we feel like we're the guests.
All right. Dandavat, Dandavat. Oh, the one and all. Dandavat. And Ragamoy Didi, Dandavat. And Ananda Swarupini, both of East London Temple, Dandavat to you there. Also. Dandavat, Ananda Swarupini Didi, Jai Nittai. All right. So, we had a subject today. And the subject today, how to live a Krishna-centered life. Just see, and written in English, not in American. Very good. With all
I knew you would notice that, man.
With all the spell checkers now, it's difficult to write in English. Govinda, Govinda. All right. So I'd like to first, Vijay Krishna was disappeared. Leela Moidiri, is Vijay Krishna nearby?
Yeah, he just went to get a glass of water. He's coming.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you, because I mentioned just now, what stories, can you say any relevant stories your grandfather, for instance, told you about Bengal from the 19th century? Or maybe it was still the beginning of the 20th century, your grandfather, because you're a young man.
No, Maharaj, because from my mother's side, I hardly saw my grandmother and grandfather. They left the body so I was young. And from the father's side, yeah, my grandfather also died. I was young. I just got my grandmother. Yeah, I just saw her. But story-wise, Bengal, no, Maharaj, she did not do any such, like how was Bengal.
Okay.
But
Okay.
what I've seen in videos, how the Bengal, there are some very rare clips of video clippings in YouTube, how the Bengal was, like, I think they were like just after like video, they had video cameras. Like you can see, the people they used to wear dhoti, they used to wear kurta, that was the very prominent thing, and it was like they were into like sustainability in a lot, so they used to use like jute bags, everything jute. The sandals were made up of rubber, the leather was not used, very sustainable, and of course, like vegetarianism was there. Now it's became Kolkata is like a lot of fish they eat, but it was vegetarian like 100 years back. So those are the pictures we see, and of course we in the clippings I also see, because there is a lot of things that are coming from the British Raj. So those things you see, like a double-decker bus you see in London, the same buses you see in Calcutta, like Kolkata streets. Yeah, like that. Yeah, sometimes in the like the old movie ones, they dress. If you see a Bengali actor, it looks very similar to a British actor. The style of the hair, the way they wear a suit. So these things are from the clippings, Maharaj. But no, my grandmother did not share.
You don't have any first-hand stories. Okay. All right. No, but good to hear. And actually, I first went to Calcutta in 1975. And I can say that generally men were wearing dhoti and kurta. So, you know, it's not so long ago. We don't have to go to the beginning of the century, but 1975 I went there first. And what about Ratnavali, Devi Dasi? While cooking, you don't have a chance. You always have a story, Ratnavali.
I have a few, Maharaj, I have a few. But this was kind of, my stories are more of Bengal in general, because my father was born in 1923. And he was a great storyteller. A lot of his recollections were pretty much related to when the British came to India and kind of how society changed at that time. So I'm not sure if it's suitable for everyone, because some of it's a bit upsetting and distressing. Things like at the time there was a lot of Hindu-Muslim rioting going on. There was this divide and conquer politics happening, and a lot of cultural clashes. And in the process of that, the British wanted to calm down the kind of the civil war. So they basically took all the kind of grains and they stored it in Eden Garden, which is the famous Calcutta kind of cricket ground, and caused a human famine, basically. So people were dying of starvation. And my parents were actually at that, even though they're from West Bengal, they're 2 generations ago, they'd migrated to East Bengal. And when they were coming back, my dad just remembered just walking over dead bodies. Like there was bodies, like where people, people were just dying and lying on the street dead because they had nothing to eat. There wasn't milk. You had to mix rice flour with water. So it was rice milk, basically, to feed the children.
They still do that in Calcutta, but they call it milk.
Yeah.
They do.
Other dairy, pretend milk, yes, I'm pretty sure. But there was also things like cholera outbreaks. And my father said that because they were so scared and they had no way of disposing the bodies, I think him and a few of his kind of god brothers and friends from university decided to get together. And as their service, they literally went house to house and they just did burials, like not burials, they did burning the bodies, but they literally went around, put a scarf around their face, and they kind of did that in Bengal quite a bit. And people in Calcutta, they were a lot more sophisticated than the kind of country folk who were kind of migrating to Calcutta. They didn't take very kindly to the refugees. Every time they saw anybody, it was like, refugee. My mum remembered, like, wherever they went, they did get they're a hard bunch in Kolkata, I would say. They're hard to please, hard to bring around. So it was difficult times, but it was also a time for a lot of different kind of spiritual traditions. There was like, people were taking initiation everywhere. There was different sampradayas, Vaishnava, non-Vaishnava, Shaiva, Shakti worshippers, a lot of that. So if you ask anyone from that generation, everyone's taking some sort of diksha from somebody. Like my mum's 9 sisters and 3 brothers, everyone's taking initiation. The quality, I can't, it's not for me to comment, but they all have. And it was a big resurgence because at that time, Rabindranath Tagore, Devendra Tagore, they were promoting a lot of spirituality and kind of finding one's own cultural roots and kind of getting rid of the British. So I think that was kind of a rebirth of a lot of different kind of denominations within the Hindu umbrella, Hindu faith.
Jai.
I have those kind of stories.
There's a glimpse of the past, and you see again another reminder that it's not that in the past everything was very easy. All these waves of atrocious things, and more atrocious than today in general, taking place around the world.
Much more atrocious. Whereas they didn't
Well,
even have a
yeah.
diagnosis of post-traumatic stress. They didn't have psychiatrists to give you counseling for, self-isolating. You just had to survive and get on with it and be strong and put your faith in the Lord and just do your best. And they did, and they're survivors, and they have that kind of, there's a psychiatric term, resilience, mental resilience, when you can overcome adversity and still carry on. That's they're a very resilient generation, like the Brits in World War II, extremely resilient.
All right, well, more and more reminders we're in the world of birth and death. So let us try to lead a Krishna conscious, Krishna centered life. So, who is going to give us some clue? Rasamoi Pandita looks like she's not busy cutting up vegetables just now. Looks like we've caught her at a moment where she can share something. And as we are guests in your kitchen, I think it's only befitting that you give us a clue of how to be Krishna-centered.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
I was running around, so I didn't catch so much what has been discussed already. Please forgive me. But yes, please.
Dandavad Slavanya, Govinda, Govinda, Govinda.
You all right?
Yes, good. I see you've got your bulletproof mask on. It's dangerous over there, is it?
Ready for war. Just packing up, and the volunteers are coming to take the meal, the prashad meal, to the houses and food banks. So it happens now and then. After that.
Okay, keep up the good savor. So
Huh?
Pandita, do said keep up the good savor.
Yes, ma'am. Your blessings as well.
My good wishes. Can we steal Pandita for like 3 minutes? Pandita, give us a word or two of your tips from leading your life of how to keep Krishna in the center.
Well, all I can say is to stay in close connection and in association with the Vaishnavas. That's really the way. There's very, very little chance for me otherwise, to create some kind of independent connection. It's really through observing the devotees and learning from them and being taught by them and having their association either directly or indirectly through remote online service, all these things. That's really the way that we can stay close to what this is and try to approach a state of Krishna consciousness. It's really I don't think there is another way. You cannot do it on your own. There is absolutely no way. So we're grateful through the online association, through Zoom and in the temple, and the service connection. Some kind of responsible service is going to help us so much keep maintaining that and try to keep the connection that way. I hope that's all right, Maharaj.
Yes, it's very all right. And not only very all right, you're covering the points, which I think are the principal things about devotional service. I can think of one or two other points which we will say, this also we must do. But now you've left some opportunity for Devashis Prabhu to fill in some gaps and leave no gaps behind so that I'll be a happy listener.
All right, Maharaj. But
thank you, Pandita Rasamoi Pandita Devi Dasi. Many thank you. Many thank yous, yes.
yes, okay. Always it's the devotees have come to hear from you, Maharaj, so I don't want to speak for too long. And my wife is agreeing with that. With me. But I think to lead a Krishna-centered life, you have to make a conscious decision to do that. And really it's all about what we consider to be a priority in our life. So, you know, then if we are serious about Krishna consciousness, then that should be our number one priority, and everything else will be supported by that. And just by that very attempt, then our life will be Krishna centered. So, you know, everyone in this world, we have so many responsibilities, but we should be clear about what is our real duty in this world and our real purpose in this world. So, you know, coming on nearly 40 years since, you know, we joined Chaitanya Saraswati Mott, and before that we were in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. But I have to say that the truth is, for the first part of that, most of my life was running around trying to find gratification for myself and thinking about myself all the time. And one of the aspects of Krishna consciousness actually is to be humble, and that's really, humility means not to be always looking for your own gratification. Actually, Srila Guru Maharaj said that humility means the complete absence of what do you say, like selfishness, the complete absence of selfishness, the complete absence of striving for sense gratification. And, you know, especially when we're young and our senses are pulling us in so many ways, that's a very difficult thing for us, especially when that's more or less what our culture has been teaching us to do all of our young life as teenagers and so on. We've been encouraged in this respect to try and, you know, make yourself the number one priority and make your own fulfillment to be your number one priority. But in Krishna consciousness, we have to try to take a different path where we're not the first priority. And okay, so then later on when we have families and so on, and people say, oh, they're my first priority. But I have to say again that actually, if Krishna is your first priority, then your family life will also be Krishna centered. If you try to make your family your first priority and Krishna your second priority, then you'll fail in having a Krishna centered life. We have to change everything. As Srila Prabhupada said, he used to use this example that everything in the material world ultimately amounts to zero. Whatever you do, whatever position you attain, however much money you have, whatever your status in society is, sooner or later, it all comes to zero. And ultimately, when we die, it's all zero. There's nothing at all that we can take with us from what we've done in this material world. So ultimately, whatever we've done is a waste of our energy and a waste of our time. But so Srila Prabhupada used this very nice example, simple example, that if you have a check with 1,000,000 zeros on it and you take it to the bank, they'll only give you 0 for that check. They won't give you any more than that, even though you may have 1,000,000 zeros on it. But his example, he said, but if you just put 1 in front of all those zeros, then how valuable that becomes then. So that we can say everything in this material world ultimately is 0. But if we put Krishna in front of that, if we put Krishna as the main focus, that 1 in front of all those zeros, then everything becomes immeasurably valuable. Your career, your family life, your everything in this world now has real value because it's connected with Krishna, and not just in a formal or, you know, a superficial way. If we can try to mold our life in such a way that everything we do does connect with Krishna, And, you know, that's just a matter of a change of our perception of reality. So, you know, then when we go to work, to our office or to our job or whatever it is, if we're thinking that this is my service to the Lord, and you know, we can say, Srila Guru Maharaj gave us the example of Professor Sanyal, Professor Nishikanta Sanyal, whose name was Narayan Das Adhikari, and he was a professor at a university. In fact, I believe he was like the head master of Lucknow University or something like that, some very high position in his as a teacher. But and he was a family man. He had a family, but we heard from Guru Maharaj that when he would receive his salary, which would have been a fairly substantial salary of you know, commensurate with his position in society, he used to give his whole check to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He didn't keep anything at all for himself. And then Saraswati Thakur would give him some money for the maintenance of himself and his family. And in this way, he considered, and rightly so, properly so, that he was actually living on the prasadam of his Gurudev, because what his Gurudev gave him. There was no question about what that amount was. There was no, you know, calculation there. Whatever Saraswati Thakur gave him, he received that as prasadam and lived on that happily. And Guru Maharaj said he was the ideal of householder life in Krishna consciousness. So, you know, then, okay, we may not be able to do exactly that, but, you know, we can try to understand what kind of exemplary devotee that was, that had such faith in Guru and Vaishnava that he was able to do that. So, you know, then many examples are given in the scripture of how we should maintain our lives. But really, the principle will be, if we do everything so that it connects with Lord Krishna and his devotees and his service, then ultimately everything will be Krishna-centered. But that has to come from us, you know, that it shouldn't just be, you know, like they say, oh, you know, like a lifestyle choice or something like that. Yeah, we like the fashion, we like the nice clothes that the devotees wear, and, you know, and you get the good incense, and you get the nice japamala, and you get, you know, all of those sort of external things, but rather the internal thing, which is that we wish to be utilized by the higher plane for the satisfaction of Krishna. And really that's our purpose, is to try to satisfy Krishna in whichever way we can. That's not just, you know, in a formal way, but in a heart way, in a way that we can extend our heart to Krishna's service. And Krishna's service necessarily means the service of the Vaishnavas. And our gurus, you know, our guardians, they're so kind to us that they've established many centers all over the world where we can focus our service proclivity, if you like. So, you know, I heard Guru Maharaj say, the big mania in this world is home building. That everybody trying to build themselves a little home here, but Guru Maharaj says it's a mania, and a mania means a madness, because we are only temporarily here. So, but we all try to make some permanent situation for ourselves. So it's like if when you're abroad, when you're traveling abroad, sometimes you have to stay in a hotel. If in your hotel room you start stripping the wallpaper and painting and putting up pictures, you know, the hotel management will think, oh, that guest has gone mad, you know, because it's very obvious that's not your permanent home. So why are you trying to treat it as if it's your permanent home? So, but that's what we all do in this world. We try and make some permanent arrangement for ourselves in an impermanent situation. And Srila Guru Maharaj said, just for that to counter that mania of home building, our Guru Maharaj has established many centers and many temples, so we can dovetail that proclivity in making Krishna's home, in the temple, where Krishna will reside. And when Krishna is installed in the temple, that means forever, actually. Srila Gurudev, when we were discussing with Srila Gurudev, he said, it's a very heavy thing to install a deity in a temple, because that is forever. It can never stop. It has to be seen, not just for your life, but onwards and onwards and onwards. That service has to continue. So, but that gives us the opportunity to center and focus our own proclivity for this home building for Krishna. We can use that in Krishna's service, and also those centers that have been established all around the world, they are actually places for our the focus of our devotional life. So we can go there and associate with the devotees, we can hear about Krishna's pastimes, we can engage in Nama Sankirtan, which is the Juga Dharma, with the other Vaishnavas there. This way we can all come together. So it's a very wonderful facility that our Gurudevs have given to us. Otherwise, what is it for? We can just stay in our own homes and chant Hare Krishna on our Japamala. But for the association, as Pandita Dasi so rightly said, we need the association of other Vaishnavas. As Guru Maharaj would often say, birds of a feather flock together. So, this is where we can go to have our association with like-minded Vaishnavas. And of course, in the current atmosphere all around the world, it may not be possible to physically go to those centers even. But now with, the utilization of this modern technology, we are able to come from all parts of the world and be together again for some time with these Zoom broadcasts and everything like that. We can say, I think that Srila Saraswati Thakur would have embraced this technology like anything if it were around in his time. Once one of our devotees, he made this proposal to Guru Maharaj that he wanted to buy a jumbo jet and fly all the devotees around the world, the preachers, the sannyasis, and that, fly them all around the world. And Guru Maharaj laughed about that. He didn't really consider it as a real possibility, but he did say, my Guru Maharaj would have liked that idea. So, then just to take the message of Krishna Bhakti and Mahaprabhu's religion of love all around the world, and all kinds of technology can be used. Guru Maharaj said not that we will shy away from that and retire to the forest or go to live in a cave, but Saraswati Thakur's whole ethos was to capture the centers of Kali, or capture the centers of Maya and utilize those for the service of Krishna. So we know there's so much nonsense and Maya and so many things going on around the world and easily accessible through the internet. But that same technology that they're using for all kinds of exploitative purposes, that can also be used in Krishna's service, in helping us to live a Krishna-centered life. So Krishna consciousness is all about association, not just physical association, but who we choose to associate with. Sorry. So who we choose, not just who we choose to associate with, but what we choose to associate with. So many different vibrations going through the ether, and we ourselves consciously make a decision whether to associate with those things or not. So the first part, or maybe the essential part of leading a Krishna-centered life, is to consciously decide that that's what I want to do. And that it's not just a secondary thought, but we think every day, like, how can we increase our Krishna consciousness? How can we make our life more Krishna centered? And we shouldn't become complacent about that. Try to increase that every day in just a small way, but all of those little things add up. And ultimately our association, what we choose to associate with, whom we choose to associate with, and that vibration that we choose to associate with.
It was his own role and trying to establish his own place when it comes to.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on there, but anyway, so anyway, those are some today, how to lead a Krishna-centered life. We hope that it might be helpful to everybody. We have some experience of, you know, living in this world and trying to in the midst of everything, trying to connect everything with Krishna. And if we make the attempt, Krishna gives us the facility to do that. That's my experience in the world, is if you make the attempt to come to him, he'll provide the facility that allows you to do that. So your intention is the most important thing, and by his grace, everything will come to help us live that Krishna-centered life. So that's my little bit. Went on for a while, as usual, but back to you, Maharaj.
Happily, Devashis Prabhu, and happily from each of you. You're all giving us a contribution and reminding us of this crazy world we live in. We're getting these reminders from Vijay Krishna Prabhu and from Ratnavali Devi Dasi, the things that go on and have been going on. And now we've got a very favorable environment, even though it externally looks unfavorable, a very favorable environment. So one or two things I can just say, because our devotees have kindly left me an opportunity to say a couple of things. One is, we can say, always chant the holy name of the Lord. Always chant the holy name of the Lord. Always chant the holy name of the Lord. And it's not just that it physically helps us, as it were, to remember Krishna, because I'm always saying Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No, we can think from a physical side. Yes, if I always repeat something, then I'm going to be remembering it more. Yes, there is that aspect to it. But by this chanting, then this is the very means for us to be able to keep our Krishna consciousness, that we're calling the Lord's names and we are relying on his guardianship, we're taking shelter of him, and with each action we do, even the simplest thing we may perform, but the result of that is in Krishna's hand at every step. So the beginning, the thought of an action, the result of the action, how we utilize the result of that action, everything needs to be in the Krishna department. And so if all the time we're chanting Krishna's name, we're going to have much better chance to remember that everything I'm doing, however apparently mundane it may be, it has its connection with Krishna. And even the smallest thing, the safety, our safety even in this world, everything relies on the grace of the Lord. So one thing is to always chant the name of the Lord. Number two, I can think also that when we came to Krishna consciousness, we had to make some conscious surrender. We all gave up something when we came to Krishna consciousness. We took some step, and for many devotees, when we first joined the temple, for those of us who live in the temple, I mean, we have to quite consciously take a step because almost in the expression of some of the, of course, high slokas from the deep thinkers that are quoted in the Prapana Jivanamritam, but really it comes to be that, you know, our friends think we're mad, our relatives abandon us, and all of these things. And so we have to have we must at one point have had some inspiration to come to take such a step to try to put Krishna at the center. So we want to keep that alive and awake, not just I joined the temple, I did renounce the unfavorable, I did try to accept the favorable, and then we find that, oh, now, okay, now I've got a steady routine in my life. I chant by this, I do that, and it's a routine. So keeping Krishna consciousness means keeping our practices alive and living. And so in that context also, to be with the devotees, whether online or ideally, of course, physically, where we can play loudly the mridanga and the kartals, and we can munch loudly our prasadam at the end of it all. I mean, all of these things, it's of course wonderful to be with the devotees and do this. But we have so much opportunity that if we can associate with the devotees, we'll be getting reminders of why we came, as we've been getting reminders of how terrible the world has been, and very recently, and how terrible it can easily become at just a flick of a switch or anything else. The world can become a hellish place very quickly. So we've come to something with an ideal, and so we should not miss keeping our focus on that ideal. And the ideal is that Krishna will be at the center. With Krishna at the center, we're giving us our homeward journey. Home, comfort, back to home, back to God, etc. So the holy name, why we came, and I can give you some topical inspiration, which we have felt, so we can say, well, if we felt it, we could share it with you. That is, I can say, read divine guidance. Yes, we've all read it before. I know we've read it before, but read divine guidance. Wonderful things are in there. And really, it struck me, it very strongly struck me. Devotees, there are devotees who've been devotees since the 1960s. We're talking about the Western world. Since the 1960s, who have never read such flowing, beautiful, clear guidance about what is Krishna consciousness and what is the destination, what the life of that land. And all this is flowing from the heart of Srila Govinda Maharaj in this book, Divine Guidance. And so, every book we read, we think it's the best book. And so, what exception, this book we're reading at the moment, and really it's so wonderful. And the devotees, like literally 60, yes, no, not 60, 50s, 56 years or something like this. Long time devotees, 55 or 54 year devotees. And maybe chanting 16 rounds a day, maybe many things, but this kind of presentation given by Srila Govinda Maharaj, which means the presentation of Guru Maharaj, the presentation of Saraswati Thakur, I mean, so wonderfully given there, that we must be encouraged to be a devotee, actually try to be a devotee, to have that aspiration, and not to pretend anything, but keep that enthusiasm alive. When we hear about our destination, when we hear about the journey, and when we hear about where we are, all of these things have their part to play. And if we're always hearing about home, then we can start to become, hopefully, a little homesick and think, what am I doing in this foreign land? My home is somewhere else, I should be there. And the thing is, for many of us, it's not that it's the home of, we miss the kalpavriksha trees, which I'm sure are extremely wonderful and amazing, but we miss the personalities of Gurudev, we miss the personalities of Guru Maharaj, and we miss the personalities that we read about in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we read about in the Krishna books, 2 rooms of the same in the highest quarter. So home is not just a physical place. A place, of course, that's not physical, but it's the association, it's the persons that we're with. So as we can read about our home, hear about our home, then more and more we'll be thinking, I should really be going home, and not thinking that anything here is home. And as Devashis Prabhu was saying about the mania of making of our homes, Srila Saraswati Thakur had an expression that this world is like camp life, like camping. You know, you take a tent, you put up the tent, you're there for a few days, perhaps you do something when you're there, then you take up your tent, you go to another place. Like it's camping life. So this world is like that. We're just here for a short time. We put up our tent in London, perhaps, and there we got our tent in London, but it's only a temporary camping ground. Then we have to move on. And when we visit a hospital and when we visit old age, you know, when we visit places like this, and we can get a little bit of an idea that really that is the case. I remember, now it's a long time ago, but I still remember going into a hospital, and in the outside world, everybody's like looking healthy, everyone's doing fine, it's all a very passionate world and all, you know, going forwards, onwards, upwards. You go inside the hospital and everybody, I mean, to the last person, except the doctors, everybody's got something wrong with them. Some have got cancer, some have got broken legs, some have got been shot, some have, you know, some of this, some of that. Everybody is suffering. And some of them are there terminally. They know, okay, I'm going to die soon. And some they're thinking they're going to get better. But then you go in the hospital and you can get an idea, oh my goodness, you know, this is a suffering place. So from each side, we want to get some inspiration for our Krishna-centeredness, a push from below, a pull from above, and in the middle, the companionship, the strength of our friends who we're continuing with. Govinda, Govinda. And the grace of Sri Guru. Let us pray for that. Anyhow, we are all trying to be Krishna conscious and we're all trying to follow the practices. That's why we're here. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I mean, if we want to single out one scripture, means you can say Veda of the Veda most applicable for the modern age, then of course Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur could not find a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita for a long time. And this is recorded in his history. And then presently he got a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita and then relished the content of that. So all of these things, this is the time for us when we can see all the favorable winds, and favorable wind that we're in Kali Yuga. Let all the Kali Yuga things remind us, great, we're in Kali Yuga. And let's not chew the Kali Yuga. Instead, let's chew the favorable part, that the sages on the higher planets and the heavenly planets who live for hundreds and thousands of years and more, they pray to take birth on earth in Kali Yuga. So whether we prayed or not, we don't know, because we forgot everything because we're so foolish. But here we are now, and so we can, when we learn that they pray to take their birth here, we can think, well, I've got my birth here. Am I doing what they are hopeful to be doing during Kali Yuga? And so this way, these things can keep us on track to try to remember Krishna consciousness. And one more thing, maybe just to add, is, and we should not again dip our finger into the material things of this world. Because how did we come here in the first place? It was for our inquisitiveness to dominate over nature, to be the enjoyer. So that enjoying tendency we want to leave aside and make our life sober and sensible, sense-controlled and thoughtful. This is always given credit. All these things are given credit for in the scripture, not rampant sense enjoyment and this, that is always denounced in the scripture as being uncivilized and harmful to a great degree. So let us be good adults, good grown-ups. We're not teenagers and not children. And if we again dip our finger into all of these things, then we know that the crocodile comes, grabs our little finger and pulls us all in. Before we know where we are, we're back in the jaws of the crocodile, being crunched up and off to another body in the material world. And crocodiles can crunch. You can be sure of that. Hare Krishna.
Jai Maharaj.
And Shyama Malini Didi's joined us in the meantime. Dandavat Shyama Malini. And Onindita Ranjaya Shikha. But I want to be Krishna conscious. Who is going to help me? Nobody. No hand, no volunteer. Oh, well.
We're all feeling unable to rise to that task, Maharaj, I'm afraid.
What?
We need your help.
We're all looking for you for help. We're all drowning in the material world, and we're looking for you to give us a hand out.
There's one hand there.
Well, here's a hand. Praneshri Devi Dasi got a hand. And by the way, Praneshri Devi Dasi kept us. She's a hip hop modern lady, so she had some moving screens, changing screens behind us. And the one I like best was the one where you've got Govinda Kund in the night behind you. That's very nice. This is what your green screen is for that. So Praneshri, how are you going to help us to be Krishna? How are you going to help me be Krishna-centered?
Well, there is a modification to the question. Is somebody else asked that, then I would recommend to read Service Life, which is a booklet that was compiled years ago, but it's so useful because it puts you in the mood of really being engaged in seva. And to me, the answer to how to live a Krishna-centered life is to be engaged in seva. And seva has to do with everything that you have mentioned, association, and even contributing to the temple, washing pots, and whatever money you get, you can share, you can give to the temple to help sustain the expenses. But above all, for me, is seva, Maharaj. Try to find the possibility of giving service, engaging in seva, engaging yourself in seva. That is how I keep Krishna centered. Not an advice for you, an advice for anyone that could ask. Hare Krishna.
We all need to hear this. We always need to remind ourselves about service and surrender. And that surrender, as we mentioned, we had to do it in the beginning, but we have to continually be in the surrender mood. This is a big part of it. Surrender and serve. And Prapana Jivanamritam again. Okay, service life. Divine guidance, service life. Actually, we're going to start listing every book, aren't we, if we're not careful. But Prapana Jivanamritam, honestly, is also giving us this, and Guru Maharaj is telling us, and because Sharanagati, surrender, is the very basis of our service life, we should always be discussing it so that we can keep this in our thought. So this is what we have to do, not only when we first came and we put on tilak, shaved our head, and completely did things we never thought we'd do in all of our life. Then, then we can say we made some jump, but after having jumped, we've got to keep on going with that mood and reminding ourselves of what we are doing. Hare Krishna. And Suvasini Devi Dasi, may we ask something from you in far west London, in Wexford. In Wexford, they manufacture the water purifying tablets. So when we were in Nepal going to Muktinath, we bought these water purifying tablets. And then I just was reading, I was just thinking, is this vegetarian and all these things, wondering what's in it. And then I saw manufactured in Wexford, Ireland. So those water tablets make it all the way to the Himalayas. Subhasini Didi, a few words from you. I believe maybe you found a treasure from Gurudev or Guru Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj, I have a treasure from Gurudev. It's for us, like every day, how to remember and go through the day. His Gurudev has, there is a short article by Gurudev. It's called Morning Wake Up, and maybe I can share it with you. It is just it's not very long. It's a short article, if that's okay.
Yes, we are here to hear, and especially here to hear from the words directly of Gurudev and Guru Maharaj, most valuable for us. Yes, Subhasini, please.
Okay. I have it's Gurudev speaking, and he reveals his personal meditation when he arises every morning. I have a small altar in Calcutta where I keep some remembrance of Srila Guru Maharaj, remembrance of Srila Prabhupada, remembrance of Giriraj, and so on, with photos. Every day I offer some incense to them, and every morning when I wake up alone, I first look at their faces and pray to them with some mantra.
Hare Krishna.
Guru Maharaj, I pray, Om Ajnana Timirandasya. Then I pay Dandavat to my spiritual relatives and brothers. Then I pay Dandavat to Narsingadev, then Giriraj, then to our Mat deities, and so on. Hanumanji is also there. Hanumanji is the best protector from all nonsense things. He himself is a brahmachari. He is a super devotee of Lord Ramachandra. He is always merciful to the devotees of Krishna. Here, I don't have that altar, but when I meditate, then everything comes very clearly in front of me. Anywhere that I'm staying, everything comes very clearly in front of me, and I'm paying dandavat to them, standing in Calcutta or Navadvip, especially in Calcutta, where I have that altar. When I'm paying dandavat, I see everyone present there in the same position. If we can follow this process every day, wherever we are, then we will receive some inspiration and good feelings, which we can keep in our hearts and live with our whole day. I'm telling you my feelings. Try to remember this. Remember the association of the Vaishnavas. Remember Guru Maharaj and remember all his paraphernalia. If you can practice starting your day like this for a few days, then it will come naturally to you all. Then I think that you will feel so much better. It is true that we are going to our daily jobs, but before that, if we try to meditate on our situation with love and affection, if we will try to meditate on our Gurudev and Krishna and everyone, then we will get so much strength and light from them, and they will save us. If our day will start with this, they will live within our remembrance for the whole day. We may do anything anywhere for our maintenance or for any duty, but we will always keep in our remembrance our protector and our master. Then the days will be easier for us. When we are chanting at that time, our prayer, our only prayer to Sri Sri Radha Krishna is, please reveal yourselves in my heart. And they will reveal themselves. Their pastimes are very sweet. It is depending upon the person, no doubt. It is all depending upon the person, and quality and qualification will come through our mood of surrender. However much we will be surrendered, that type of return will come to our mind. So that is the end of the article. It is spoken in Italy in September 99 during his Divine Grace 14th World Tour. So I found it very inspiring to go through that, Maharaj, to every day remember that like Gurudev is telling for our practice, is, you know, although he's sharing his personal experience, he's probably all the time in their consciousness, but is telling for our practice too, everyday practice. Yeah.
A very full answer for us given by Srila Gurudev, Jai. And I know there are no coincidences, everything is managed, but you mentioned this is from 1999 in Italy, and this morning in the temple here, and then we are, because we do different things different days, this morning in the temple here, we are playing the video of Gurudev, 1999 in Italy, and he's there, and it's a little hot, it's summer, he's fanning himself and he's talking in a good video. So anyway, these things are in the ether, but we haven't heard this part yet, but we didn't finish. We listened, we watched, I think 17 minutes to be continued, but clear audio and sweet, clear audio, sweet Gurudev. Oh, young Rasamoy Pandita and Sachi Devi there, and of course others too. We are seeing all the devotees there. Hare Krishna. All right, so our Krishna conscious day, may it continue. And happy to have each of you with us. Everybody here, Ravindra Krishna Bhu, Shyama Vallabha, Ratnavali Devi Dasi, Devashis Prabhu, Ishanuga Devi Dasi, Ajaypur, Rasamoy Pandita, and many like bees buzzing around the West London temple. And Subhasini Lavanyamoy Devi Dasi. Where's Lavanyamoy? Oh, little bit. There we are. Jai, 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 Jai. Lavanyamoy. Vijay Krishna Bhu and Lilamoy Devi Dasi. Shyama Malini Devi Ragamoy. Dandavat, Dandavat. Dandavat to all Vaishnavas, and thank you. Yes, very welcome. And Ananda Swarupini Devi Dasi. To all of you.
I'm in the temple right now. I'll show you everyone here. Oh, I can't. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear. Somebody said something?
I'm in the temple right now. So everyone.
Okay, all right, lovely. Jai Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Wonderful Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Jai Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rockok Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Vaga ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Acharya Brinda ki Jai.
Jai.
And all the assembled devotees and the devotees who will come to hear it later, because I see it's recorded and they do catch up later. They say, oh, I can't join at the time, but we join later. So to all of you who are with us, my obeisances and my key jais to you all, and jai to all the worldwide devotees. Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo.
Jai Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj.
Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat, Dandavat. Have a good day, remainder of the day in seva. And perhaps your next seva is to chant Sharirara Vijjaral. I think so, for the London and Irish section at least. Dandavat Pranam. I leave you together in case you have AOBs between each other.